Imagine a spiritual guru, right? Picture them looking you dead in the eye and telling you that um, if an ancient sacred text doesn't make complete functional logical sense to you, you should literally just throw it in the garbage.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is definitely not the vibe we usually expect.
Right. Like no mysticism, no blind faith at all.
No, telling you the universe just works in mysterious ways.
Exactly. Just ruthless scientific logic.
I mean, it's a massive departure from what we usually talk about when it comes to spiritual growth.
Hmm.
We're so conditioned to associate spirituality with, a surrender of logic, aren't we?
Oh, 100%. You're supposed to just leave your critical thinking at the door and trust the process.
Right, trust the universe.
Yeah. And that is exactly why today's deep dive is so compelling. So we're looking at this 2012 text by an author named Feng. It's titled Solidly Cultivate and Live Clearly.
Mm-hmm.
And our mission today is to really unpack this spiritual philosophy that just completely flips the script. I mean, it demands this extreme, uncompromising, logical rigor.
It really does. It basically asks you to treat your own self-improvement, your whole spiritual journey, almost like a strict scientific inquiry.
Yeah, which is wild.
It is. And, this text serves as a roadmap for what the author calls Chanyuan celestials. And just to define that right out of the gate so we keep things clear.
Please do.
A Chanyuan celestial in this specific framework is essentially a practitioner who is striving for a higher, harmonized state of existence, like a celestial or heavenly state.
Okay, got it.
But the fascinating tension at the heart of this source is, well, how you achieve that lofty goal. You don't get there by chanting in a cave somewhere.
Right. No retreating from the world.
Exactly. You get there through this hyper-practical, no-nonsense demand for evidence, clarity, and logical consistency in literally every facet of your life.
And I think whether you consider yourself a deeply spiritual person or, a strict atheist or somewhere in the murky middle, this text is going to resonate with you.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we live in this era of massive information overload, right? We're constantly bombarded by gurus and life coaches.
Influencers.
Yes, influencers using all this complex, confusing jargon to sell us the secret to happiness. And this text takes a super aggressive stance against all of that noise. It demands that you verify the truth for yourself.
Yeah, and to really grasp how radical this approach is, I think we have to start with how the text redefines the whole concept of cultivation.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because usually cultivation means withdrawing, right?
Right, exactly. In traditional models, cultivating your spirit means you go to a monastery, you take a vow of silence, you separate yourself from the messy reality of the world.
It's like escaping society.
Yeah, but Sufeng explicitly forbids that. The text argues that cultivation is absolutely not about retreating into isolation to seek, supernatural powers.
So no levitating or reading minds.
No. And it's also not about gambling, casting lots, divination, or, rolling dice to figure out the future.
So there's zero tolerance for the magic show. You aren't trying to read tea leaves here.
Not at all. Instead, cultivation is defined as a relentless, active pursuit of the truth about everything around you. And I mean everything.
Okay, give me an example.
Well, the text dictates that a practitioner must thoroughly understand the fundamental mechanics of reality. You have to investigate morality, what the text calls the Tao, and its virtue.
And just to pause on that for a second, the Tao basically refers to the underlying operating system of the universe, right?
Yeah.
The natural order of things.
Exactly. And virtue is how a person aligns their own behavior with that operating system.
Makes sense.
But you don't just stop at morality. The author insists you must understand the meaning of life, the rules of time and space, and even the complex relationships between consciousness and energy transformation.
Wow. Okay, wait.
The standard is incredibly high. There's a specific line. Not a single clue or trace should be overlooked, nor should any word or term be treated carelessly.
I mean, let me jump in here and play devil's advocate for a second, because is that actually feasible?
It's a big ask.
It is. The text is asking a regular person to completely comprehend the mechanics of time, space, and energy transformation. That sounds less like a spiritual path and more like trying to earn a PhD in quantum physics while simultaneously solving a crime scene.
That's a great way to put it.
But human existence is messy. Can everything truly be subjected to that level of rigorous logical reasoning? Aren't there things about the cosmos that are just, beyond our current human logic?
Well, that is a critical question, and it hits on the exact friction point this text wants you to confront. The epistemology here. So the author's foundational theory of knowledge is built on the premise that the universe is not inherently chaotic.
Okay.
It's ordered. It has clear origins and a structural logic. The text argues that if something is universally true, it will be logically coherent because the universe itself is built on logic.
So if it doesn't make sense, it's not the universe's fault.
Right. Therefore, if a teaching or a concept seems completely illogical or relies entirely on ambiguity, the flaw isn't in your human limitation, the flaw is in the teaching itself.
So relying on ambiguity is a failure of the system, not a failure of the student.
Exactly. You cannot just shrug and say, well, God works in mysterious ways.
Right, because under this framework, that's a cop-out.
It is. It's a total failure of cultivation. This philosophy asserts that knowledge is utterly useless if you only know the what without understanding the why.
You can't just superficially accept a teaching just because some sage or religious leader said it.
No, you have to understand the fundamental mechanics behind it.
Okay, but what happens once you understand those mechanics? Because it can't just be about building this massive encyclopedia of knowledge in your head.
It isn't. Once you grasp a truth, the text mandates a rigorous, moment-to-moment application of that truth. It's an active recalibration of your behavior.
Like putting it into practice every single day.
Yes. The text says you have to constantly place yourself in the position of a Buddha or a Bodhisattva.
And a bodhisattva, just in simplest terms, is someone who has reached enlightenment but intentionally delays their own reward to help others achieve that same clarity.
Right. Perfect definition. So before you speak, you're instructed to ask yourself, would a Buddha say this? Before you act, you ask, would a Bodhisattva do this?
Wow, that is exhausting.
It is a constant loop, verifying truth through logic and then executing that truth in your daily actions.
But if the practitioner is expected to act like this ruthless spiritual detective constantly testing their reality, that raises a massive problem.
What's it at?
Well, how do we treat the gurus, the life coaches, and the ancient texts that have been telling us what to do for centuries? Do they get a free pass just because they're ancient or sacred?
Absolutely not. In fact, they are subjected to an even harsher light.
Really?
Oh yeah. The text establishes what we can think of as a profound pedagogy of clarity. It lays down a strict law for anyone who wishes to educate, guide, or lead others.
And what's the very first rule?
You must use the simplest, clearest language possible.
Huh. So no hiding behind deep, confusing poetry to sound profound.
Right. There is a total ban on relying excessively on complex jargon. If a teacher absolutely must use a technical term, they're required to explain it thoroughly first.
You have to make sure everyone understands the foundational concepts before you move forward.
Exactly. Furthermore, any teaching has to be backed up by something solid. You need factual examples, rigorous logical reasoning, scientific evidence, or incredibly clear insights.
No, just trust me, bro, aloud.
None. The author explicitly states that deceit, ambiguity, and mediocrity have absolutely no place in spiritual leadership. You can't just coast by claiming to be an enlightened master while speaking in riddles.
And this naturally leads to what the text calls the discard pile rule.
Yes, the discard pile.
So if a teaching or a teacher doesn't meet those standards, you don't just politely ignore them, you actively throw them away.
You chuck them in the bin. The text states that practitioners must scrutinize every teaching, dissecting every single word. Every word. If you find contradictions, a lack of evidence, or if the teaching completely collapses under basic logical reasoning, you discard it.
It goes even further than just logic, too. The text actually says that if a teaching fails to inspire joy, clarity, or spiritual upliftment, you must throw it in the trash. It's just worthless.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it.
But wait. I have to push back heavily on that specific point.
Go for it.
Throwing a teaching in the trash just because it doesn't inspire joy. Isn't that just a recipe for spiritual laziness?
How do you mean?
Well, it sounds like you would only ever listen to things that validate you or make you feel warm and fuzzy inside. Sometimes growth is painful, Sometimes the truth doesn't make you joyful right away.
That is a very fair critique, honestly. But we have to look at how the author defines joy and clarity in this specific context.
Okay, explain that.
It isn't about fleeting pleasure or simple validation. Think of it more like a software developer hunting for a bug in their code.
Oh, I like this analogy.
Right. So if the code, which is the spiritual teaching here, doesn't compile and run smoothly in your daily life, it generates errors. It generates confusion, guilt, and cognitive dissonance.
So the lack of joy is actually a system error.
Exactly. The developer doesn't pray over the bad code and hope it gets better. They delete it. For the author, a true, logically sound understanding of the universe inherently produces a deep functional clarity.
It clears the static.
It clears the static. If a teaching adds static, guilt, or confusion to your life without leading to a functional understanding, it's bad code. You delete it.
Wow. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's about the functionality of the belief, not just the aesthetic of it.
Precisely. And the text applies this same ruthless debugging process to the teachers themselves.
Yeah, it explicitly points out that if a preacher is a hypocrite, like if they seek personal privilege, luxury, or status while preaching humility or detachment, you sweep them right into the garbage bin along with their teachings.
They're gone. The title, the robes, the history, none of it saves them from the discard pile if their actions don't logically align with their words.
Which perfectly sets the stage for the most provocative section of this source material.
Oh, definitely.
Because the author doesn't just talk about this discard pile as a theoretical concept. To prove just how strictly this logical debugging must be applied, Xufeng turns that microscope onto some of the biggest titans of global belief.
Yes.
But real quick, before we get into the specifics of these critiques, we need to pause and make something incredibly clear to you, the listener.
Yes, very important.
We, as your hosts, are not taking a stance here. We are not endorsing these critiques, nor are we arguing that these major world religions are flawed.
Right. No sides being taken.
Our role today is strictly analytical. We are exploring exactly how the author, Xufeng, applies this specific logical framework to massive belief systems, purely as it is written in the Tothine 12 text. We are impartial observers, just looking at the mechanics of the author's argument.
Precisely. We're just mapping the author's logic here.
Exactly.
So let's look at how the text applies this scrutiny, starting with Buddhism. The author puts forward the claim that Buddhism contains a fundamental logical flaw regarding the origin of the universe.
Okay, what is the flaw, according to the text?
The critique centers on the Buddhist emphasis on causation, the idea that phenomena arise simply because the right conditions exist, while often denying the existence of a singular greatest creator or, like, a prime mover.
Right, and the text challenges this by demanding an unbroken chain of logic. The author argues that while conditions are obviously necessary for things to grow or happen, you still have to answer the ultimate question.
Which is?
Where does the first cause come from? Where does the original order originate?
And to understand why the author is so hung up on this, you have to look at their foundational epistemology again. For Xufeng, a universe without a deliberate first cause is essentially an accidental universe.
Just random chance.
Right. And if the order of the solar system or the complexity of biology just arose from random conditions without a creator setting the parameters, then logic itself is just an accident.
And if logic is an accident, the author's entire framework for understanding reality just collapses.
Exactly. You can't use logic to solve the universe if the universe isn't built on a logical blueprint. So the text claims that many people who preach Buddhism don't truly grasp the necessity of this first creator, and as a result, their teachings lead people into confusion rather than ultimate clarity.
And again, just as a reminder, that is the author's specific application of their demand for causality.
Right.
Then, the text shifts its focus to Christianity. And the critique here centers heavily on the Christian concepts of linear time and the final judgment.
Yes. The author critiques the denial of reincarnation and takes specific issue with the idea of a single, distant judgment day.
So they don't buy the timeline.
Not at all. The text argues that the concept of people living one life, dying, ceasing to exist, and then being resurrected thousands of years later for one massive judgment event is, according to the author, logically absurd.
Wait, really? Absurd?
Well, the author claims that observable reality points to continuous transformation and reincarnation, and that judgments on a person's life occur continuously every single day through a cause and effect.
Oh, I see. And the author uses this incredibly vivid analogy to attack the logic of a single final judgment.
Oh, the father analogy.
Yes. They say, imagine a father who has 10 children, and these kids are running around making mistakes as children naturally do, right?
Sure.
But instead of actively guiding them, correcting them, and educating them the very moment they mess up, this father just watches in silence.
He just lets it happen.
He lets the errors compound. He waits until the children grow old and die. Maybe he waits thousands of years, and only then does he judge and punish them for what they did.
It is a devastatingly simple analogy. The text basically asks, is that a fair system? Would you ever call a father who operates like that loving, responsible, or logical?
Probably not.
Think about basic psychology or even how we train animals. Feedback loops require immediate, understandable consequences to actually function.
Right, if you delay the correction by 1,000 years, it ceases to be education and just becomes arbitrary punishment.
Exactly. And by using that father analogy, the author is demonstrating the rigorous application of their own rules. If a doctrine like waiting millennia to correct a mistake feels fundamentally illogical and contradicts the very definition of a loving creator, the author demands that the doctrine be questioned,
Bugged.
debugged, and ultimately thrown into the discard pile. It is a bold assertion that human logic and observable reality must take priority over established religious tradition, no matter how sacred it is.
It is a ruthless intellectual process, for sure.
Mm.
But what makes this text so comprehensive is that it doesn't just stay up in the clouds, debating the origins of the solar system or theology.
No, it grounds it.
It brings this exact same logical microscope all the way back down to Earth, focusing on the physical human body and the everyday realities of how we actually live.
Yeah, it transitions from cosmic origins right to everyday purpose. The text asks you to look at your daily life and ask a very blunt question.
What are you actually busying yourself with?
Right. Are you spending your entire life seeking fame, trying to make a fortune, or trying to glorify your family name?
Are you exhausting yourself just working for the benefit of a specific nation, a political party, or a corporation?
The author challenges the reader to logically consider the design of a human being. Did a creator design this incredibly complex, conscious entity solely for these exhausting, earthly, administrative pursuits?
If you look at the mechanics of human life, it doesn't make logical sense that our ultimate purpose is just to, pay taxes and seek status.
It really doesn't.
Which brings us to a fascinating application of this logic regarding the human body, specifically how society views pleasure and sexual intimacy.
Yeah, the text vigorously questions why sexual intimacy between consenting adults is so frequently heavily regulated, shamed, or viewed as inherently sinful by various traditions.
And the way the author dismantles this shame is purely anatomical.
Yeah, it is. It's a logical proof using the body. The text says, look at the human eyes. We all accept that the eyes were created not just to navigate a room, but to appreciate the vibrant, rich beauty of the world.
Right. The eyes have a functional purpose, but also an aesthetic, joyful purpose.
Exactly. Therefore, if the greatest creator designed our reproductive organs, why would we arbitrarily assume they are solely functional just for urination and procreation?
Right. Like, why would the creator make one organ capable of multifaceted joy and explicitly ban another from doing the same?
The logical extension, the text argues, is that these organs must also be designed for pleasure, intimacy, and human connection. It completely short-circuits the societal conditioning that tries to separate physical joy from spiritual purity.
And this leads to perhaps the most memorable metaphor in the entire text.
Yeah.
The author concludes that we have to figure these things out. We have to debug our beliefs about pleasure, purpose, and reality so we can live with actual clarity.
Because if we don't, we are operating in ignorance.
And the text says that living a life of ignorance, just blindly following societal expectations, is akin to working for demons, selling oneself to them, and even helping them count their profits.
That phrase.
Helping demons count their profits. I want to really dig into that because it isn't just a spooky image. It perfectly describes the mechanics of cognitive dissonance and societal autopilot.
Oh, totally.
Think about it. When you don't question the norms you've inherited, when you just grind away at a job that exhausts you to buy things you don't need, or when you carry around guilt over natural human joy because a tradition told you to, you aren't just a passive victim.
No, you are the machinery. You are actively contributing your time, your physical energy, and your mental bandwidth to systems that thrive on your lack of awareness.
Wow.
Whether those demons are literal spiritual entities or just metaphors for toxic societal structures, the math is the same. By not asking why, you become a battery for the very forces that keep you disconnected from the truth.
You are doing their accounting for them.
You are doing their accounting.
It is such a stark wake-up call. The text states, even in death, we must die with clarity. We cannot leave this world carrying a massive load of unexamined beliefs and unfulfilled understanding.
The demand is that we distinguish the primary truth from the secondary noise right now, today, or we are going to deeply regret it when our time is up.
It demands an intense, almost exhausting level of intentionality about every single choice you make and every single concept you accept as true.
Absolutely.
So let's pull back and look at the whole picture we've mapped out today. We have explored a spiritual philosophy that completely shatters the stereotype It requires you to demand proof, to understand the mechanics of morality in the universe, and it is entirely willing to put the most powerful religious traditions in the world under an unforgiving logical microscope.
And most importantly, it advocates for a life that is clear, deeply intentional, and inherently joyful, completely free from the unexamined guilt of societal conditioning.
It is a framework that simply does not allow you to be a passive passenger in your own life. You are forced into the driver's seat.
You really are.
And so I want to turn this directly to you, the person listening right now. Think about the concepts we've discussed today and ask yourself, what does your discard pile look like?
Good question.
Are there beliefs you're holding on to, experts you're following, or societal norms you just accept as the way things are without ever running them through your own rigorous logical filter?
Are you hauling around rules that fail to bring you clarity or joy simply because someone, at some point, told you they were important?
And to build on that, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
Back in 2012, this author was primarily targeting religious dogma, ancient texts, and traditional societal norms. But think about the world we live in today. Think about the modern algorithms, the media feeds, and the influencers that act as our daily, pervasive teachers.
Oh, wow.
Every time you open your phone, a system is feeding you information, telling you what you should care about, what you should buy, who you should be angry at, and what you should fear.
The ultimate modern gurus.
Exactly. If we were to truly apply this level of intense, Chanyuan celestial scrutiny to our digital lives today, if we demanded absolute clarity, unbroken logical reasoning, and a foundation of functional joy from every single post, article, and video we consume, how much of our daily information intake would we have to drag directly into the garbage bin?
I have a feeling that discard pile wouldn't just be a pile, it would be a mountain.
A huge mountain. It is a powerful lens to apply the next time you find yourself mindlessly scrolling or blindly accepting any narrative as the absolute truth. Thank you for joining us on this journey as we unpacked a truly uncompromising source.
It has been a fascinating exploration. Remember, the universe may be complex, but your understanding of it doesn't have to be. Always question the premise and always demand clarity.
Keep testing your reality, keep debugging your beliefs, and we will see you on the next deep dive.